I've never beaten Baldur's Gate 3, but I wanted to play it for a video, so I fell back on my favorite thing to do in role-playing games, trying to beat the game as a character I like, and I asked you guys what character from which series you'd like to see as the first run, and you all chose Super Smash Bros. From the available options, and the first request, a request for Little Mac from Whiskers3336, was the one I went with. The rules for the run are pretty simple. First, I can only attack using my fists unless I'm using or throwing an item, since Little Mac is a boxer, but readily uses items in Smash. Next, while I can use equipment like clothes, boots, bracers, rings, and necklaces, I can't use helmets, shields, or capes, since rings and necklaces are innocuous enough to Little Mac's design, but the man only wears clothes, shoes, and boxing gloves. Finally, I have to try to replicate his moveset in Super Smash Bros. As closely as possible and roleplay him as best as I can. So, can I beat Honor Mode by myself as Little Mac? Obviously I can only be a human, since that's what Little Mac is, even though admittedly a half-orc would be much more optimal, and the best class to start with is Monk for its unarmed strike damage, unarmored defense for any real AC, and extra attack later for max attack speed. I would have liked to have picked Entertainer as my background, but Soldier fits the character better proficiency-wise, and we'll need all the help we can get in this run. Finally, I make the man, the myth, the Mac himself, and my guardian angel for this run will of course be Doc Lewis, as if it could have been anyone else. After about a half dozen attempts to get this solo Honor Mode challenge run started, I unequipped my staff for what I hoped was the final time and just ran to the end. I recruited all the available companions in the Nautiloid region for XP, sending them all to camp of course, knocked out the injured Mind Flayer since we'll almost exclusively be doing non-lethal damage for this run since Little Mac is a combat sports athlete, not a warrior or a killer, and leveled up, getting a second level of Monk for Step of the Wind and one of our most important tools for this run, Patient Defense. In conjunction with a piece of gear we'll be getting later in the run, that'll be our down B special attack, Slip Counter. I get to the battle in front of the Grove and take out the two Goblin Archers with a frame 1 jab combo. I forward aerial the Warg into Oblivion, I forward smash Zakrug into Oblivion, and spike the Bugbear. With only 2 casualties, one being Will, who I revive, I socked Aridin in the jaw with my KO punch, recruited Will for XP, bought potions of Hill Giant Strength from Auntie Ethel since they will carry this run, and started the Grove quest despite having no intention to finish it. I guess now's as good a time as any to mention this. Baldur's Gate 3 is a game with hundreds of thousands of options for just about everything, and those options make the game easy. Limiting those options should, by that logic, make the game more difficult. Playing on Honor Mode and making the monsters stronger limits what I can do to kill them before they can kill me. Playing by myself drastically limits what I can do in general, with basically no spellcasting, and what I can do in a given round. Playing as Little Mac specifically further limits me to using only certain equipment, as well as limiting me to a certain build and specific roleplay options. Because Little Mac is a good kid with a sense of right and wrong, as well as being a tough kid who, by becoming a boxing heavyweight champion and beating Mike Tyson at age 17 despite only being 5'7" and 107 pounds, about 100 pounds shy of the heavyweight minimum, Little Mac is likely to be prone to face evil head-on, as injustice shouldn't be tolerated, especially when the strong pick on the weak, and no adversity can't be overcome through sheer grit and determination, but should always be handled fairly, like a boxing match. I say all that to say that the difficulty of the run inhibits my ability to properly roleplay Little Mac, and vice versa. Roleplaying Little Mac puts me in positions in this run where I cannot proceed. So if I ever have to compromise by doing things Mac wouldn't, or not doing things Mac would, try not to be too harsh with me, because trust me, there will be other, better reasons to be upset with me later in the run. At any rate, I grabbed the silver pendant since guidance is invaluable on a solo playthrough, and I picked a fight with these two absolutists since they thought I was a true soul, but when I cleared up the confusion, they tried to jump me. I took out Andric with a neutral attack jab combo, and then finished off Squishy Brina with a kick after the game bugged out and froze combat for like 6 minutes. And yeah, Little Mac doesn't kick because he's a boxer, but if I limited the run even further with a no bonus action unarmed strike because it's a kick rule, you guys would probably never get this video. Well, I resisted Enowin's tadpole because it's evil, and then I knocked it out. After that, I talked my way out of a fight at the Blighted Village by strutting my heavyweight champion Intimidation and got level 3, where I dumped another level into Monk for my subclass, Way of the Open Hand, as if it could have been anything else. Being that I'm a boxer, I'd have probably preferred Way of the Closed Fist, but this works. I got the Swarovski shoes for better jumping since mobility is a big deal for Mac, and if he's gonna have dogshit aerial recovery and smash, he ain't gonna suffer from it here. And while Mac would probably trust Priestess Gut and get drugged and imprisoned only to break out with his strength and beat the crap out of Gut and her ogre stooge, that's not happening on a solo honor mode run. So I conserve my strength and one of Raphael's underlings take them out, netting me a tadpole and one true soul down as well as some decent loot. I go ahead and unlock the Selene outpost in the Underdark as a fast travel point, and then head over to the swamp to save Auntie Ethel so that I can get potions of Hill Giant strength from her, which I can justify as Little Mac fails the insight check, only seeing a little old lady being harassed by 2 irate young men armed with farm implements. I knocked them out with a good forward tilt 1-2, tried not to upset their sister Mayrina, and got some potions from Ethel. After restocking my supply of definitely not peds, I made my way back down to the Underdark, avoided the legendary action having Boulette, and made it to the Myconid colony where I told Spa I would take care of the Duragar that were attacking them. Knowing that was going to be a tough fight, I went around and did a couple of things for more XP in hopes that I could nab level 4, like recruiting Karlak, freeing Barkus, helping everyone at Joaquin's Rest, and even impressing Kithrak Voss and his Gift Raiders with my strength, temper, and determination enough for them to let me live, but alas, it wasn't enough. I decided to head back to the Blighted Village and do the cellar stuff, beating each skeleton one at a time by shattering their jaws with my up tilts, and once I made it into the hidden laboratory, that's enough to bump me to level 4, where I drop another level into Monk for the Tavern Brawler feat to boost my unarmed strike damage output and to get another bonus to my strength modifier. I also nabbed the Bracers of Defense for more AC while I was there, and the Smuggler's Ring just in case for later since my dex is pretty good and my charisma's already shot, and while I don't expect to be sneaking around since Little Mac is a very forward, open person, I'd never rule it out in an honor mode run. It was getting to a point where I was as prepared as I was going to be for the Duragar beach fight, so I took Glut with me, since while Little Mac typically only fights 1v1 in sanctioned matches, in Smash, he's been known to team up with others and use items when his opponents will do the same and typically have some sort of magical or scientific powers. Before I went down, I decided to nab the Boots of Speed from Thula since in Punch-Out, Smash, and here, nimbleness and speed are major advantages for Mac, and I would also need them for the other piece of gear I mentioned before to complete my slip counter. Then it struck me. I could play nice with the Duragar at first, get what I needed at Grimforge, then go back and take them out, so I did just that. Upon arriving at Grimforge, I looted and explored, making sure to grab the rune powder vial for later. I dyed my boxers green for the Little Mac flare, met the legend himself, former heavyweight boxing champion Doc Lewis, who instructs me to use the tadpole's power from now on to gain the title of the super heavyweight champion of Toril, and then I made sure to take care of anything that needed doing before going into Act 2 so that I could head straight in after I was done preparing, like offing the Paladins of Tyr for Karlak, which would also net me some good XP. Before I start the fight, I use my first tadpole to unlock favorable beginnings so that I can unlock Luck of the Far Realms with my next tadpole, my actual KO punch for the run, at least for now until a different but not necessarily better option pops up later in the run, and after down tilting Cyril, causing her to fall over, creating a boxing ring on the roof of the building, dash attacking Anders right in the face for the knockout, and taking Trin out with a measly weak jab, the fake paladins were no more. Still not feeling confident in my chances against the first Shadow encounter in the Shadowlands since they resist bludgeoning, and still having things to wrap up here in terms of getting equipment, I discovered the Adamantine Forge for more free easy XP, got the nearby ore in case I ever thought I could take on Grim for more XP, returned the Boots of Speed to Thrin for the Armor of Uninhibited Kushigo to finally get Slip Counter since it allows you to counter a missed attack against you with an unarmed strike while Patient Defense is active, smashed Crusher's face in with a graceful back aerial with a 6% sweet spot hit for his Crusher's Ring for more mobility, headed through the mountain pass, made Lady Esther see stars literally and metaphorically as I smashed her into the sky with an up aerial for attempting to bribe me to steal a child, getting great loot like the Cloth of Cat's Grace as a reward in case I need a dex boost for AC in the future, or the Gloves of Cinder and Sizzle that I'd like to not have to use since Little Mac's punches are only metaphorically fire, not literally, and I decided to barrelmancy Auntie Ethel for being a villain, lying to me, making me hurt innocent people, kidnapping a woman, and also actually just because she was too strong for me to beat normally, but I needed the XP and was running out of ways to get it. Next, I headed over to the Crush to grab some very good gloves for this run, the Gloves of Dexterity. They're a little too expensive, so I went back to the Underdark to save Balin and get the Noble Stock using Glute since he doesn't set off the Bibberbangs, and I gave it to Dareth for the Gloves of Uninhibited Kushigo, a different set of good gloves for this run. Who could have guessed that the most important gear in a run as a boxer would be the gloves? With really nothing else left to tackle between the Shadows in Act 2 and the Beach Duergar, I began what ended up being the longest, most convoluted battle of the run, where I fought the Duergar, fled from combat when they began to overwhelm me, rested at camp and got some between-round advice from my second, returned and fought the Duergar again, trailed them all the way into the Myconid colony because I had enough movement to attack them and then fight off the back foot, basically fighting like Floyd Mayweather by attacking the enemy and then running away, got an assist from Blurg, tried to get the Bulet and Minotaurs to attack one of the Duergar, which didn't work as they were too busy fighting each other, and then finished off all but one of the Dark Dwarves since I couldn't find the last one. Regardless, Gek was dead, so Spa was satisfied, and so was I. Still wanting that one level up for extra attack, I took out the Gnolls with Flind, got 5th level, and then took her out as well with a vicious down aerial spike. I got an achievement for playing fetch with Scratch, found Flint conscious again and tried to figure out if I could farm her for XP, which I couldn't, and headed into the Shadowlands to take down the Shadows, which I had to do because Little Mac wouldn't leave the Harpers to die. To give myself the best possible chance, I equipped the Gloves of Cinder and Sizzle to bypass the Shadow's resistance to bludgeoning damage, chugged a potion of Hill Giant Strength, summoned Scratch to take an attack from one of the Shadows, shattered a Smash Ball to unlock the power of my final smash, Gigamac, or as I like to call him, Big Mac, and chugged a haste potion to mimic the blitzing flurry of strikes Gigamac unleashes in his final smash. A Shadow killed Scratch, and Jonas tried to shoot me with his crossbow, but I caught the bolt barehanded and returned to sender, and after the Shadows and Harpers beat on each other, I used Stunning Strike to stun 2 of the Shadows and finished off one Shadow with Flurry of Blows. Guess the ones I stunned tried to shield against Mac, one of the classic blunders. On the next round of combat, I used my attack and extra attack to pummel another Shadow to death, and used my second attack from haste and a Flurry of Blows to take out a third Shadow, second in that round alone. Come on, Harpers, pick up the slack! I just beat 2 Shadows in 6 seconds barehanded. Well, Karo took that to heart and took out Jonas, so I popped another haste potion to avoid lethargy and clutch up the fight, and I proceeded to double KO punch a Shadow and take it out with a straight smash. With 2 Shadows left and only 1 Harper remaining, that doesn't go well for her, but I made sure to take out one of the last 2 remaining Shadows before she died, and the last one after, just barely though. With all the Harpers dead and Gigamac worn off, I moved on and did the last light in stuff, finally bought the Gloves of Dexterity, took down Marcus and his goons in an honest-to-God boxing match by blocking his allies from rushing in with a boxing ring, and convinced Karnas to kill himself since I had no shot of beating him and his crew. Convincing mentally disabled people to kill themselves is a shockingly common occurrence in Act 2 that I'll have to begrudgingly take advantage of, but for now, I convinced Garangoth to kill herself for free XP and a ton of gold I definitely could have used earlier with those Gloves of Dexterity, convinced Malice and his nurses to kill themselves, and convinced Thistlebald to kill himself. Maybe I should do a low-tier god run one day. By the way, I hope you guys are enjoying this run. If you are, I'd really appreciate if you subscribe to the channel, as I definitely plan to do more Baldur's Gate 3 content and more videos like this in the future. Now, I wanted to be around level 6 or 7 before fighting Ketheric, and with all the bosses of Act 2 dead and all the ones I wanted to try my luck against in Act 1 gone too, I decided to go down to the Gauntlet of Shar, killed all the Sharans by trailing them to Balthazar's room, which got me to level 6, my last level of Monk for this build, and then I convinced Uragir to kill himself. That's the 5th time I've driven someone to suicide, and that won't even be the last. I also did all the trials while I was down there, being especially impressed by how amazingly I got the Nightsong Spear, just barely having the movement speed and distance from the closest pursuing enemy to flee to camp, and I chatted with Balthazar before meeting him in the Shadowfell and knocking him out in 1 turn before he could even summon his minions by stunning striking him with some brutal up smashes. I freed the Nightsong, looted Balthazar's room and secret room, got the letter from Ketheric's wife since there was no way I was going to be able to beat Ketheric and Merkel back to back in the final encounter, and took out the guards in front of the door to the top of Moonrise Tower. Now for the first of the Dead Threes chosen, Merkel's own Ketheric Thorm. I actually kind of bent the rules here since I was worried that I wouldn't be able to defeat Ketheric at this level, so I went and got Astarion on my team, but didn't bring him with me so that if I died in the fight, he could revive me. I understand if you think that this invalidates the run, and I think that's fair, but as for the actual fight itself, I equipped some robes I got that resist cold damage since the necromites helping Ketheric have armor of Agathis, I summoned Scratch to eat a hit for me, and I dashed and drank a haste potion before entering the fight so that I'd have enough movement to get to Thorm and some good combos for him when I got there. First I stunned Sussy to stop her from fireballing round 1, and after seeing how much damage it did, I went ahead and finished her off with a flurry of blows and a KO punch. With my second action, I threw a potion of haste at Dame Aelin and sprinted over to the entrance, far away from Ketheric. Ketheric used Deadly Order on Dame Aelin, so the necromites focused her and her monstrous 18 AC rather than me and my wimpy 13 AC, but Ketheric moved too close to me for his own good. I had Scratch attack him to waste his shield blow reaction, and after Aelin survived a Horde Strike legendary action from Ketheric and the Necromite onslaught, she pushed a Necromite to its death, moonbeamed Ketheric, crit him, and then failed to do anything else meaningful, but that was fine, because Little Mac has enough experience in the ring to know when to go for the KO, and Ketheric was looking like he was in range. I ran over since he hadn't recovered his action yet, triple stunning striked him, with 2 hitting but not stunning and 1 missing entirely, and hit with a KO punch flurry of blows to knock him prone with a down smash. I proceeded to move as far away as possible, and Ketheric had to pass his turn, so I had Scratch attack, though he missed this time, and Aelin finished Thorm off after another round of dodging everything. Unfortunately, I got taken out by the remaining Necromites when Lethargy hit, but Astarion revived me and I finished off the lackeys. After entering the Mind Flayer colony, I took down the Intellect Devourers, saved us, convinced the Merkelites to give me his blessing, purged the Static Mind Flayers, and saved Mizora for level 7 on the dot. Perfect. For 7th level, I'll multi-class into Fighter, with the goal being at least 3 levels into Fighter for Battle Master to complete my Little Mac build. Unfortunately, we'll never get to see that build come to fruition, not on Honor Mode anyway. For those of you that see my community posts, do you recall seeing a post at around the 4th of July about softlocking myself and asking whether I should end the run in Honor or continue in Dishonor? Well, that was this, except even worse than you might believe. Because of the difficulty of the run, the restrictions I placed on myself, and honestly my lack of foreknowledge about the game being that I had never even been to Act 2 before this run, I was unable to progress against Merkel, and, while I had intended to save this reveal for the end of the video, I've actually already been playing on Dishonor mode this whole time. After about 3 attempts on the Honor Mode run, I had gotten the perfect run where I had gotten all the way to the Goblin Camp while still on Honor Mode, but one fuck up with the guards of the Shattered Sanctum put me in a run-losing position. So I tried to load my save back, but couldn't, not knowing beforehand that the one save you get in Honor Mode isn't one you can load back. I then tried quitting as a last-ditch effort, but the game autosaved before exiting and ruined that save. Every one of the attempts after that was even worse. And after a day and a half of trying to start this run with nothing to show for it, I died on the freaking Nautiloid section and just decided to continue in Dishonor. Unfortunately, even in Dishonor I couldn't beat Merkel. So since you guys said to finish the run by any means possible, I summoned Scratch and Us, made Scratch invisible and walked him over to Dame Aelin, convinced Ketheric to kill himself, last one I promise, freed Dame Aelin, and begun the only chance I had to defeat Merkel. I set the difficulty to Explorer, took a backpack filled to the brim with explosives, including that rune powder vial from earlier, and dropped it next to Merkel, hit Merkel with a KO punch stunning strike, hit him with a flurry of blows, and then threw a flammable slime bomb at the pack, nearly killing Merkel in one turn via an act of terrorism. With Merkel stunned, Aelin proceeded to finish what I started by spiking the ball I set. I even got an achievement for killing him before he got a chance to heal from his Necromites. A hollow victory. Best part though? All that struggle was for nothing, as during the Astral Plane fight, I set the difficulty back to Tactician and lost my first attempt at helping the Emperor with the Gith, but the game autosaved me in mid-jump over a bottomless chasm, soft-locking my Honor Mode run permanently. Ironic that I soft-locked myself by being ignorant and ill-prepared, only to be soft-locked by the game after swallowing my pride just to continue. Well, considering that my last upload was 2 weeks prior to this happening, I was not going to start the run all over, and considered ending it there with how devastated I was. Beaten down time after time only for 2 weeks of recording to go down the drain. 40 hours that came to nothing. But then I asked myself one question. What would Little Mac do? He spent his entire career getting beaten on by guys twice his size, and yet he never failed to get back up no matter how many times he got knocked down. So I'm gonna get back up too. After all, this is supposed to be a run where I roleplay Little Mac as best as possible, right? So I compromised. I played all the way back up to where I was on a brand new save, but on Explorer mode with a full team, with my intention being to switch back to Tactician at the Astral Plane fight. I built Mac, escaped from the Nautiloid, recruit everyone, fought the Grove Gate battle, got the Silver Pendant, killed the Absolutists and Edwin's Parasite, got to level 3 from the Blighted Village and went way of the open hand, got the Smuggler's Ring, nabbed Karlach, got the Swersey Shoes, dyed my undies green, crushed Crusher for his ring, got Gut executed, got the Underdark as a fast travel point, helped Ethel and bought a ton of potions of Hill Giant Strength from her, actually defeated the Boulette this time around, since the Blood Guzzler garb you get from him also makes a good KO punch since you get Wrath when an enemy damages you, like how taking damage builds your KO meter as Mac. I actually successfully intimidated Kithrak Voss without save scumming, destroyed the fake Paladins of Tyr, got to 4th level for Tavern Brawler, did the Blighted Cellar stuff and got the Bracers of Defense, killed the Duragar for Spa, saved Balin and got the Noble Stock, therein by getting the Gloves of Uninhibited Kushigo, returned the Boots of Speed to Thryn for the Armor of Uninhibited Kushigo, actually got Leviatar's Love this time since it's similar to the Blood Guzzler's garb, and I realized how well both fit the KO meter, took out Beastmaster Zerk and his goons for the Linebreaker boots for more wrath, got the Rune Powder Vial, stomped the Shadows, got 5th level, slaughtered Marcus, obliterated Karnus, smashed Garen Goth, KO'd Esther, got my Gloves of Dexterity, looted Balthazar's room and got the letter for Ketheric, got my last level of Monk once more, actually convinced Thisabald to blow himself up again, annihilated Malice and his nurses before they could perform surgery on any of us, restocked my potions of Hill Giant Strength, and then beat Auntie Ethel down, just straight up boxed Grim and beat him without ever even using the Forge Hammer, took out the Inquisitor and the rest of the Kresh in an attempt to get to level 7 before getting to the Mindflayer colony, got level 7 from the Sharans in the Gauntlet for my first level of fighter, beat the shit out of Yurgir and his minions, went back and beat Dror Ragsland for the Spring Step boots since I think they'd go well with a boxer, smushed the Face Spider Matriarch and got the Spurred Band for another boost at low health since I know how much time I'll be spending down there, got the Gloves of Crushing from Rao and then pretty much wiped out Moonrise Tower to see if I could get away with level 8, but only knocked out most people, meaning they were still there in the final confrontation, just unarmed and unarmored, released the Iron Hand Gnomes for Act 3 stuff, tried to help Minthara only to be met with an empty room and an off-map quest marker, got 8th level, finally getting my 2nd level of fighter and action surge for a potential 6 hits in 1 round, beat the snot out of Balthazar, convinced Shart to spare and befriend Aelin, defeated the remnants of Moonrise Tower, beat the stuffing out of Ketheric, and finally blew up Merkel and broke every bone in the Lord of Bones' body. Okay, where were we? Ah, right. This fight. This battle took a bunch of tries, with each attempt taking forever because I forgot to dismiss my allies, but I eventually took the invading Gith out, no thanks to the Emperor and his garbage AI, and I refused the evolution since I'm pretty sure that, even if Doc Lewis told him to, Little Mac wouldn't become a squid person. I took out these bad guys harassing these commoners to get to 9th level, and finally finished the Little Mac build, getting my 3rd level of fighter for the Battlemaster subclass. Here's the problem. In D&D 5th edition, unarmed strikes count as melee weapon attacks, but in Baldur's Gate 3, they don't. Battlemaster maneuvers can only be used when making a weapon attack. So if I'm only using my fists, I can't use Battlemaster maneuvers. That's such bullshit since this entire build is contingent on using Battlemaster maneuvers while unarmed, and the crux of the problem is that this is a rule change from D&D to Baldur's Gate 3. I was gonna use Step of the Wind and Trip Attack for rising uppercuts since, while you can't jump and attack simultaneously in Baldur's Gate, uppercutting someone and making them fall prone and then being able to jump without needing a bonus action seemed to fit well enough. Straight Lunge was going to be a feigning attack since the charge makes the timing tricky to dodge or block, and it hits hard when it hits. And the Jolt Haymaker was going to be a combination of the Charger feat for the move and strike, and the Pushing attack for the launch. And while I still eventually end up getting the Charger feat, I don't even think I ever used it because it's just not the same. Well, at least we still got the slip counter and the KO punch, the KO punch probably being the most important thing about the character, and of course Gigamac in the form of the Enlarge spell. Regardless, I press on to the checkpoint and am almost destroyed by the Steel Watcher until I'm saved by the Deep Gnomes I released in Act 2. I followed them and got the Rune Powder Bomb from Barkus, and trust me, we're gonna need that for later. After getting the special invitation to Worm's Rock, I finally meet the Chosen of Bane, God of Tyranny, Archduke Lord Enver Doordash. Instead of fighting him here, where he's already activated a ton of assist trophies, I decided to change the map to Final Destination and forward throw him off the edge, getting the fancy footwork achievement in the process. Wow, I think I've finally met someone with worse aerial recovery than Mac. Next, I sneak my way into the lower city, enlist the help of the city guards in defeating Dolor since he wanted to try to jump me, and now it's time to take on the mighty Saravok Anchev, who I'm indescribably disappointed with due to his entire character development from Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 getting wiped. That said, after tricking him into being alone, barrelmancying him, and finishing him off, I get everything I need, or so I thought. I narrowly escaped the remaining Tribunal and Knights, but I quickly realized that I didn't have the Amulet of Ball needed to get to Orin. I went back in, and for some reason, nobody cared. Not the Knights or the Tribunal, despite literally just trying to kill me. Regardless, I had to kill Saravok to get the amulet, so I did, which then allowed me to confront Orin the Red. This fight cost me Lae'zel and took some doing, but after a weird glitch where Orin and her right-hand woman were invisible and invincible before combat and would softlock the game if you approached because the conversation would start but no dialogue was initiated, I threw the rune powder bomb into the arena to kill everybody but those two, saved and hard reset my game to bring those two back to mortality, and blew them up with the rune powder vial. With nobody left to cast spells or grant stacks of Unstoppable, zoning Orin from that one ledge next to the arena was easy. Using all the consumable items I had been hoarding up till now, like acid vials, caustic bulbs, and of course spell scrolls, I slowly whittled Orin's health down until, while avoiding a group of grease fires I had created underneath her, she corrected her pathing and moved up the stairs to come around and take me out. To help me fend her off, I threw the spider egg sack to summon the baby spiders, Misty stepped away, ran back, summoned a fire elemental and us, and after they whittled her down to the last rungs of her health, I finished her off. Unfortunately, right after, my game crashed. Luckily, the game homie dropped me and auto-saved after I defeated her, likely to make up for softlocking my original honor mode run. It was finally time to confront the Netherbrain. When confronting the vile creature for the first time, I used the power of Gigamac in the form of an elixir of the Colossus for advantage on my strength checks to dominate the Netherbrain, and while the dex check admittedly required some save scumming just because I wanted to see exactly what succeeding these checks did, the preceding DC 30 and DC 99 strength checks were pure luck. 2 nat 20s back to back. Unfortunately, we failed to dominate the Elderbrain, but after flying and sneaking my way up to the final encounter using some of my saved potions of flight and invisibility, I threw down a haste spore grenade, used a scroll of greater invisibility on Doc Lewis so that he could activate the stones on the crown of Karsus, and drank a potion of invisibility before moving right next to the crown. Doc Lewis opened the portal and went through, but I got spotted when my invisibility broke for some reason and I was slaughtered. So I did that same thing, except hid next to the portal, and it worked. I was able to get into the Netherbrain's dimension with Doc Lewis, and the two heavyweight champions showed this thing how it's done. I took a backpack, put every single remaining explosive and poison I had in it, KO punched the brain, flurry of blowsed it, action surged, sent one more knuckle sandwich flying down the pipeline, dropped my bag bomb next round, and set it off with an alchemist's flask. But that didn't finish it off, so expecting to have to do it myself, I threw down a healing potion and prepared, but Doc Lewis with the last-minute clutch assist finally defeated the Elderbrain. I got Doc Lewis to destroy the Netherbrain and saved Baldur's Gate and possibly the world, becoming the Taural Super Heavyweight Boxing Champion of the world. That was fun, but in the future I might play on a lower difficulty or not lone wolf so that I can actually enjoy the challenge instead of being miserable and kind of failing both the character roleplay and the challenge aspect. Thank you all so much for watching, and please don't hesitate to leave suggestions for who I should try to beat the game as in my next run. It could be characters from an anime like Dragon Ball, Jujutsu Kaisen, or JoJo's. It could be a character from a fighting game like Street Fighter, Tekken, or even Mortal Kombat. It could even be a MOBA game character like one of the gods of Smite, or an RPG game character like a Dark Souls character, or, of course, a character from the Baldur's Gate series. Well, that's it for the run. Guess I'll see you guys next time. Peace.